This is going to be a big one, so let's get right into it. Ghost of Tsushima, the big new game from Sucker Punch, PlayStation 4 exclusive. Probably the last big first-party game this generation for either of the consoles. And it's pretty good. It's kind of, in a weird way, appropriate send-off for this generation because it has a lot of elements of it that define this generation and is a pretty good showpiece for the PlayStation 4, I think, in terms of like graphical fidelity and stuff like that. So the game starts out on the island of Tsushima, which is an island of Japan. It's was invaded in about 1274 by the Mongols under the rule of Kublai Khan. So all of that is accurate. And they even got the battle that we see at the beginning of the game pretty accurate as well. But after that, the game starts to take a little bit of a liberty with its source material. This isn't a historical fiction, so to speak. It takes place during a particular part in history, but a lot of the stories and characters and events are all fictionalized. So they can kind of do what they want with the setting, and I think it's pretty good. I think they do a pretty good job of telling some good stories in this world. They have some really good characters. I think the open world gets a little repetitive. But overall, I think this is a pretty solid game. And we'll get into some details of that later on. But I guess, what are your guys' overall opinions of it? Like, what do you think of that opening scenario? Is there anything that's standing out to you as great or not so great?
I thought it had a pretty strong opening. It kind of really like set the mood of what's going on, and it kind of showcased how it would be. Like they're gonna come in, they're gonna take over like that and put their foot down, and that's kind of what it did. It set you up to where your character was like there, and then you come in and you just get knocked completely down. So I think it
Mm-hmm.
did pretty well of setting up the game.
What about you, Lee?
Yeah, it's a really strong opening. It's obviously it's your prologue, but it's also your tutorial sort of thing. But it doesn't. It feels solid enough that you're engaged from the start. It's a real good push off. You get the vibe, you get
Mm-hmm.
the tone. It sells it really well as a start off because normally I find these start offs and these sort of things quite dull because you know what they're trying to do. They're trying to shepherd you through the general mechanics of it.
Right. Yeah.
But this kind of holds its own. It feels like, it doesn't feel canned to me.
Right. Yeah. Then that. Yeah. I think that's probably what I was getting at too. Is like, yeah, as a tutorial section, it doesn't feel over tutorials. Like it doesn't feel like you're in you're in a tutorial. It feels like you're just moving through it and it's giving you some information along the way. Um,
Hmm.
and yeah, so that opening battle where the Mongols first land, you are one of the two survivors, at least two known survivors of that battle. You play as Jin Sakai, who is like a minor samurai lord on Tsushima, and it's you and your uncle that survive, and your uncle's kind of like the top samurai on Tsushima, and your uncle gets captured, and you kind of go on this quest to free him. That's at least the main goal of Act 1 of the game. And along the way, you have to kind of build up your allies. So there are a lot of side characters that you do quests for to gain their trust. And a lot of them are pretty good. I think the one of them that stood out to me was Masako, the warrior mother who lost basically her entire family on during the invasion, and she kind of goes on this like bloodlust revenge tale, which is a pretty good. I think she was pretty well represented, and they did a very good job of like showing her anger and her despair and everything like that. And yeah, I think she stood out. And of course, the what's the woman who saves you? What's her name? I forgot. I can't believe I forgot her name.
Yeah, I can't remember 'cause she's like the thief lady, right?
Yeah.
I really
Um,
like her like character setup. I'm not so sure about like her whole arc so far.
mhm.
Like the one you just mentioned, like that arc for her was awesome. Like from beginning to end, like it really showcased everything.
Mhm.
To where it seems like I wish I
I can't. Yuna, right? Yuna.
unit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Yuna. So Yuna is the one. She saves you from the battlefield basically because you are wounded, and you kind of she's like your first ally. She's helping you get back on your feet basically, and you kind of build a relationship with her and learn that she wants to get her brother out of um, Mongol clutches, and that's like her. If you help her with that, she's going to help you rescue your uncle from the Mongol captors as well, and that kind of sets up the first main quest of the game, and then all of these other side characters like Masako, and there's like an archer who's like the best archer on the island. You have to go and help. There's Genji, which I think is a bad character. I absolutely sick of his missions that are basically the exact same thing over and over again. He's like this merchant that's trying to. He says he's trying to change his ways and be a and help out the people, the people that are being terrorized by the Mongols, but it's just the same repetition over and over again of he says he's doing something good and then it turns out he's doing something bad, and Jen scolds him, and then you just rinse repeat for every mission so far. So that character I think is maybe a little overused. And I think one of my favorite characters was Nero, or Norio, sorry, which I don't think Derrick, based on where you are, I don't think you've met yet. He is like a warrior monk on the island, and he just has a really good story of like honor and trying to live by the kind of like the sins of his past. He's supposed to be in charge of this temple, but he's always living in his brother's shadow, who was like the better warrior. Like he was seen as like the true protector of the temple, but he died early on, and yeah, he just has like a kind of like a redemption story kind of thing, and he just seems like a legitimate cool dude that's just trying to get by in a weird time. Um, so I think they do a good job kind of fleshing out those characters. I think the best way to experience those stories is to kind of focus on them instead of what I tend to do in a open world game and just kind of go off in a bunch of different directions at once and pick up the story here, pick up another story there. If you can, kind of narrow in on the stories you want to focus on and go for it, because this game has a lot of content.
Yeah, it does. And that's like
Yeah.
one of the things we were just talking about. It was like, well, how far did you make it? Well, not really that far because the amount of time I've got to put into it, there's so much that it gives you to do. And like I said, like a lot of the things I've been doing are these small side stories, but you want to focus on one. But if you start like exploring a little bit, you run into another one, or you'll run into a minor event that leads you to a bigger event.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but they do like a good job of kind of spacing where stuff is relative to the actual map.
Hmm. Yeah, it seems like one of those games that there's always something. Um, there's always one more thing just on the edge of wherever you are to go explore. Or so this is a game built very much on like the Assassin's Creed model of open world, or like the Witcher 3 model of open world, where you have question marks on the map that you can go explore, and really they're going to be one of maybe 5 things. And some of the things are really repetitive. Like there are these hot springs that you get, and I don't know about you, but when I first started the game, it seemed like I was finding hot springs every 2 seconds. Uh, and what these hot springs do is you sit in them, and you reflect on something going on in your life, and you get a little boost to your health, which is nice. Getting a little health boost is cool, but they're just so repetitive. Like it's the same animation when he climbs in and shows his ass, and then
Yes.
and then
I've only found. Oh, sorry.
no, it's okay. You only found one.
Yeah. Yeah, I only came across like the first one, and I didn't even really like do the hot spring thing right away. Like not until you like kind of like mentioned about it. You're like, damn, I'm running into these a lot, and I'd come back to that area for something. I was like, oh, I need to talk to this person. And it was like, you want to go in the hot spring?
Yeah, it was crazy for me. I must have found probably, oh man, it must have been a dozen of them in the first few hours of playing the game. Um, and it just seemed like, and now where I'm at now, I haven't seen one in so long. It's so weird. I don't know if they're just clustered up in one area, or what the deal is. But like, so basically you get led to them by these birds, these golden birds that you find, and that kind of, they're flying around, and you follow them, and they lead you to one of several different kind of collectible, I guess you'd call it, because I know it's weird to say you're collecting hot springs, but you are, because you sitting in it, and it's like you found 12 of 50 hot springs. So it's like very much a checkbox kind of thing that you're doing. And there's a couple of other things that pop up. But I think my problem with them most is that there's no mystery in what they're going to be. You can tell what they're going to be from a very long distance away, and there's only one of 5 things that they could end up being. Like the fox dens are the same thing. When you first come across them, the first couple of times, it's pretty cool. You follow this fox who's really cute to a shrine, and you honor the shrine. You get a talent, like an upgrade for your talismans that you can equip, which is a whole nother thing we'll talk about later. And you can pet the fox, which is nice if the fox is there.
How many have you pet?
8 billion.
I'm still that one. I think
You're
that one
still
I
that
finally
one?
came across.
Yeah.
That's still the only one I've seen. Like I said, it's going to be interesting to see what pans out then for me further down the line then. Because if you're running into all the stuff right away, and I've only run into like one, it'll be interesting to see if it like kind of flips around as I get further on.
Yeah, that's crazy. I don't know how. I don't know. Like, have you been following the birds? Have you been noticing them?
Yeah, like I've seen them and I found different stuff. Now I found a couple of those like the jumping temple things where you got to do like those little jumping puzzles.
Oh, okay. Yeah, those.
I found a few of those and I've done those because those have been pretty neat. Like it gives you some neat stuff to do.
Yeah, those are there are a lot fewer of those than all the other things, because those are kind of like big, more elaborate things you have to do. But yeah, those are like the bridge up to the shrine is destroyed, so you have to figure out some other way to get around it. And those give you, I think those give you talismans too. They're not talismans.
So. I think just charm. I think those
charms.
were for the
charms.
charms.
Yeah, and
which is crazy too, because I guess to like kind of add in what we're talking about is they give you a lot of different things to collect to kind of like build your character that at some points you're kind of like thinking like, well, what do I need to work on?
Yeah, there's so this yeah, that's the skill tree is broken up into a whole bunch of different skill trees. And the charms in particular, I can't even tell you how many charms I have right now. There's so many, and a lot of them are duplicates, so they're not unique. Like,
Mm-hmm.
getting you get one as a reward for something, and that's not like a unique reward. It's just another one you've gotten before. And like the presentation of them isn't great for from like an organizational standpoint to figure out which ones you want to equip. It's just kind of like this big endless list that you have to scroll through and find, oh, this is what I want right now, this is what I want right now, and there's no loadout, so it's not like you
Yeah,
can.
that would be one
Yeah,
of the biggest things lacking from the game would be loadout because it does like gear wise, different types of gears do different things. So like if you're just riding along, you want your travel attire on, so you notice all your collectibles and
yeah.
stuff you can like the harvest and pick up. But then when it's time to battle, you want to be in your gear. Or if you're going to go to sneak, I guess there was like a sneak outfit you can build as well at some point.
Yeah, you get a Ronin attire that makes it so enemies, it takes them a lot longer to see you. The little awareness meter that you get when you're sneaking around, it takes them like longer to see you, and you can upgrade all of those types of armors. But yeah, there's no loadout, so you can't like say, okay, so when I equip the Ronin attire, I also want these charms that are associated with stealth equipped. Or when you have your samurai clan armor on to do some big heavy fighting, you can't have the health bonus charm equipped and the stagger bonus equipped or something like that. It all has to be manually done, and it's like I haven't changed my charms like in forever because I
I think
don't.
I've just put on like defense ones. I think I have like a defense one, a health, and maybe I think it's luck because I think I have 3 on right now.
Yeah, I think I've unlocked all the slots. I think you can have like the main one at the top and then 6 below. Um,
Yeah, I think that's right.
and yeah, it's gotten to the point where I'm not even checking to see what I'm getting, and there's no reason for me to swap them in and out because a lot of them are such small changes as well.
Yeah,
It's like 5% chance to stagger an enemy or something like that. It's like I'm not gonna deal with that. But that said, there have been a couple that have been really cool. Like I just got one that um, so you can throw wind chimes to distract enemies and have them go over to it, and then you can sneak up and stab them. Uh, and I got a charm that when the enemy goes up and investigates the wind chime, it releases a toxic gas and kills them.
oh shit, really?
Yeah, so that was pretty cool.
That's nice because I've been using the kunai and the sticky bomb.
Yeah, those are the two offensive weapons that you can use. These are like throwables. The wind chime. There's a
So
whole
sort of like a trap type deal.
yeah. They're like there's a whole nother set of throwables that you can get. There is a firecracker that instead of just attracting over one enemy, it attracts a bunch of them. Uh, and stuff like that. So like you can you can throw a firecracker, and then like 3 or 4 guys will come over and investigate it, and then you can like shoot a explosive arrow into them and blow them all up in one shot or something like that.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so I think I think that part of the game, the character progression gets a little too busy, especially with those charms in the skill trees. So the skill trees, at first it seems like it's overwhelming, but once you really start getting into it, it's a lot of the same things you're unlocking for different stances, because with the combat there are different stances, which we'll talk about in a second. Um, and a lot of it is the same. Like every stance, you're unlocking kind of the same move set. You're just doing it to be against a different type of enemy. Um, and
Yeah.
a lot of the skill trees are pretty short. They only have like 4 things to unlock for like your smoke bombs and your kunai and stuff like that. So it's just kind of like all over the place. Like you have to go through a whole bunch of different menus to get to it, and it seems like it's probably more complicated because of how spread out it is. Um, and a lot of the things only cost like 1 point. It's not like I know a lot of these kind of like half RPGs. What they'll do is they'll give you this tiny skill tree, and you'll be like, "Oh, I'm gonna complete this in 2 seconds," but then you
Yeah,
realize
they're
that,
like, no, it's like
yeah, the second,
5 point,
yeah,
10 point, 20 points,
yeah,
and
you
you're
have to
getting like,
accumulate like 10 points just to unlock the third thing in the tree or something like that. This one's a little bit better than that, and you can unlock quite a bit of it pretty early on. And I don't think it really makes you overpowered or anything like that, which is good. Uh,
no, yeah, I think that's one thing. Like speaking on that, like that's one thing the game does pretty good too. Is like it'll give you these new things, and you'll do like the little tutorial part, and you're like, oh yeah, but then you come into like the next encounter or something, and you can get totally destroyed. Like, because you go and thinking, oh, cool, I got this. We'll be able to pull this, and off. I can't tell you how many times that I've like got way in over my head way too fast because I was like, oh, new toy, let's do this, and then they're like, nope.
yeah, I think that'll probably bring us into the combat, which I think is really great in this game. Um, a lot of times, open world game combat can be a little bit almost like almost very generic. I found that to be the
Yeah,
case
like
in like Horizon Zero Dawn. The melee combat was not great, uh, and like even the Assassin's Creed games, they're getting a little bit better, but there's something about them that feels a little bit too arcadey or something like that. But the combat here actually keeps you on your toes. You can, even when you unlock all sorts of different stuff and have uh, a whole bunch of tricks up your sleeve, it can still give you a run for your money. You can't just go in there and spam X a bunch or square a bunch of times and
yeah,
get your
yeah,
way
it's
through.
definitely not. They did a good job, like with the combat. It's definitely not a button mashy thing.
Yeah.
And at first, when I saw it, I was like, oh man, there's different stances. You know, a lot of the games try this, and they're not too great at it.
hmm
I think you're able to switch pretty fluently, especially like in the middle of combat. Um,
Yeah,
but
you just hold the R2, and then it's one
yeah, and
each of the face buttons is a stance, and each
yeah, and it's pretty
stance,
seamless in the combat as well too.
yeah, and each
Uh,
one is better at a particular type of enemy. So like you start off with uh the stone stance, which is good against just regular swordsmen. Then you get a one that's good against spear people, well, spear guys. One that's good against guys with shields, and then eventually you get one that's good against like the big brutes. Um, and you can get away with attacking with the wrong stance, but there's certain types of moves and like um, opening them up to parries and stuff like that you get when you switch to the appropriate stance for the appropriate enemy. Uh, and yeah, it's pretty good. There's also like a set of special moves that you get along the way. I know, Derek, you just said you got the Heavenly Strike.
yes, that quest line was so much fun, and I absolutely love that move. It has
Yeah,
saved my ass so many times.
yeah. The Heavenly Strike quest is really good, and I think a lot. Well, not all of them, but some of the quests that you do for these special types of like, there's a couple of quest lines that give you like a special type of armor, or there's a lot of them that do give you armor, but then there's a few that give you special moves like the Heavenly Strike and stuff like that. I think those are pretty cool. They kind of have you almost solving a mystery because they're like they're like legends being retold of like the past and stuff like that. So you have to go and like find a tomb of this famous soldier and get his armor and stuff like that. And some of those are pretty good.
It definitely like they've done very well with roping you into the things that you will do throughout the game as far as story. Like you'll be going along and you'll hear it's like, oh, this is really cool, and then you'll get into it, and it really like keeps you there. I don't think at any point yet, at least for me, it hasn't felt where anything story wise has been like tedious. Like, all right, we're like 6-7 parts in now. Why?
Yeah. The main story does seem to move at a pretty good pace. Like you're not doing a million mini little things to get up to a big climax or something like that. It's moving forward pretty well. I think the only problem I have is that there are some of the side character quest lines that don't really amount to much. Like there's this merchant named Genji that's supposed to be like, oh, he's like the comic relief. He's supposed to be trying to help people and the people of Tsushima, but he just keeps accidentally falling into traps, and it's actually more about him trying to make money and stuff like that. And you keep coming across him, and every quest is the same. And Jen is just like scolds him and then moves on and stuff like that. And it gets some of them can get a little old and repetitive like that.
I'd say the one part.
Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say like the one part where the game had kind of like got me. It was like for collecting stuff to get some of the pelts that you need to upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh cool, I'm gonna go out hunting for some stuff. Well, I found this nice big group of, I think it was like deer or something, and I took them all out, and I was like, all right, I'm gonna go skin them. Nope. You need predator ones that are actually going to try to attack you.
Yeah, there's like wild animals, and the only ones that you're supposed to kill are you'll find groups of wild boars.
Yeah, I found the boars and I think a set of like wolves. Is it wolves?
I don't think I've found any wolves. There are like attack dogs that you can come across.
Okay, maybe it is the dogs then.
Yeah, and bears. You'll find bears as well.
Yes.
The bears will kick your ass. They'll grab you and they'll throw you clear across the level.
Oh, look! So I was riding across an area and I saw a group of Mongols getting attacked by a bear.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, I have one of them fly across my screen. I died laughing. Like,
yeah,
I looked over, I saw it happening, and I was like, all right, I'm going to stay away from over there right now. I know what's going on.
Yeah.
And just all of a sudden, this guy's just like,
yeah, they'll do that to you too. They'll grab you and they'll throw you, and it's cool the first time, and you're like, oh man, this is a very dangerous animal, but it's their only attack, so they'll keep doing it over and over and over again.
Okay.
It's the same thing with the attack dogs. They kind of grab your wrist and you have to shake them off, and that's their only attack. And they can get kind of annoying because unless you're
in
a pack, but also close up, they just kind of their attacks are unblockable. They're like the red attack that you can't block. So if you don't dodge out of the way, they'll just keep spamming that same attack over and over again. And they get really annoying later on when you're fighting off a bunch of guys and they're also in the mix and stuff like that.
I dealt with that, and one of the last things I had done was clear out one of the dojos.
Mm-hmm.
And there was a bunch of them there, and that would happen a couple times. You'd like, oh cool, there's a couple, and oh no, shit, there's a bunch of dogs too, and then you get speared.
So that kind of leads to the other half of the combat, which is stealth. And I think the stealth is okay. I found it to be a lot of the time kind of easily exploited, as is with a lot of these types of stealth games where you just learn exactly where to be in the periphery of the enemy in order to not be seen, and taking advantage of, you know, somebody should have seen me kill this guy, but because of the way that the AI works, they didn't, or something like that.
Yeah,
Um,
it is super exploitable in this game. Like that's how I cleared out the dojo. Once I figured out it, like, oh, cool, I can just hide around here or hide under here, quick pop out here, and then as soon as you're back in cover, they're just like, what?
yeah, yeah.
And then you
You
just
can
quick
also
walk
disappear real
around and
quick. Yeah,
grab them.
yeah, yeah. And so that's a little bit disappointing that it doesn't feel like it's two complete sides of the coin. It feels like the combat, the actual sword fighting is a little bit more of the focus, a little bit more, there's a lot more going on there, and the stealth is kind of like,
Just there.
yeah, it's just there. And it's weird because it tries to play it big into the story about Jin taking this stealth path that isn't honorable to the samurai and stuff like that, but it doesn't seem like, um it doesn't really seem like anybody really cares. Like his
Yeah.
uncle, when you free your uncle, he's like, "Oh, you're gonna have to stop doing that now, blah blah blah," and then you just keep doing it, and he doesn't. It's not like he keeps coming back and saying stop doing it, or gets mad at you or anything like that. It's strange, which is weird because I think that could have been a really good story arc, and like some sort of mechanics built around that. Like if you do it too much and you go down this path, or you stay honorable and you go down this path or something like that.
Yeah.
They could have had something cool there, but instead it's just more of like, well, you got two trees. If you want to go stealthy, you can. If you don't want to, no big deal. Do you have anything more you want to say about that before we go on to I guess what we'll wrap up with, which is like how this game looks?
No, I think we covered that pretty good with that. It works. Some of the
Yeah,
stuff gets a little spread out, but
I think
I'd say nothing's like bad.
I think it's the best horse I've ever had in a game. Like riding around on the horse feels really good.
No,
Uh,
it does. It does.
like you're not running into trees like you do in Red Dead Redemption. He's not getting stuck on fences and shit
And
like he
he's not
does in
up
The
your
Witcher.
ass all the time.
What's that?
And he's not like up your ass all the time.
Yeah,
Like you call him, he's not like right up on top of you. He's kind of just like around right there,
yeah,
and
he'll
he'll
just
stay where you
appear.
leave
And when you get into combat or something like that, he automatically runs away, so he's not just like in the middle of the fight or something like that.
it.
Um, yeah, I think in when you're controlling him and running around, it feels like it feels just like you're pretty much playing as Jin, just moving faster. Like it doesn't feel like there's like a huge amount of extra momentum, or it's a clumsy, like you're clumsily taking corners or anything like that. It feels like just an extension of Jin, and then so that's great for not like being a jarring experience, getting on and off the horse. But yeah, let's talk about the way this game looks, because I think that's probably the shining achievement here. The art style in this game is kind of unmatched. I've never seen a game that's kind of done such a great job of capturing a setting through its visuals and stuff like that. Every Seems like every bit of this game they went through and made look fantastic. The architecture, like it looks like everything is like appropriate for the time period and the setting. The way that they create like the scenic views and big just rolling hills of flowers, and then going into like the golden leaves of that first area, the golden temple,
Yeah.
stuff like that. Like the way that they use like stark color to create moods and stuff like that. I think it just looks fantastic.
Yeah, it is. It's super impressive. Like, we saw the original demos and stuff of it, and we're like, wow. But the fact that they actually pulled it off in game, keeping that same wow effect, considering, like, the last set of games were the Infamous series, which weren't really, they were kind of bright, flashy, especially Second Son.
Yeah, and
So
there were
coming,
just cities, right?
yeah, it was just
Yeah,
like cities with like magic.
yeah,
So coming from that to a highly combat focused game and that kind of setting and just pulling off this like you can kind of like 180 what your studio does and is known for.
hmm
And it's just super impressive. Like the night cycles look great. The weather, the changing
yeah,
of the weather, everything like feels in the mood. Nothing like feels like really out of place. Uh,
yeah. Yeah. The previews of this game, I didn't think it looked that great, honestly. Like when there was that first gameplay that they showed off a few months before it came out, and I was like, that doesn't look that great. But there's something about when you're actually in it and seeing it all move around you and that and stuff like that that really made it shine. Um,
mhm.
and just like exploring around and seeing all the little details, like the way the particles move through the air, like the leaves or the pollen and stuff like that.
I
The only
think one of my
thing the only thing that stood out to me was a lot of the ground textures are kind of low res, uh, which at this point in the console life cycle is kind of to be expected. They have to cut corners somewhere. Um, and we got to have a talk with open world developers on making better looking rocks and cliffs because
yeah
they just kind of look like gray blobs that have some like sharp edges. Like there's just a rock like protruding out of the ground, and it just looks like this hard edged weird shape coming out of the ground. Um, let's work on that for next gen. Get some real good rock tech in there. Make these cliffs look real special.
Ryan 6 game is going to be like a rock excavating simulator. It's going to be the
Yeah,
next thing that comes for you, Ryan.
yeah. It's gonna be minerals and gems. The exploration game where you're just mining through cliffs and everything looks super realistic and you're finding all sorts of gems in there.
And
Um,
I'd say since we're kind of like talking about looks, it'll kind of tie into it a little bit. You collect these Mongol artifacts as you're going around,
hmm
and it's sadly the same thing every single time.
Yeah, it's like a yeah.
It's a little like scroll type thing, and there's like 40 of them. I was like,
Oh,
anything.
so yeah, there's records which are scrolls. But then the Mongol artifacts are actually these um things that are hanging. They're like they look like they've got like horse tails hanging off them and stuff like
Yeah,
that. But they always look the same.
yeah, it's like
There's nothing special about them. You're not looking at them like they're unique or anything like that. They're 100% purely a collectible.
just pick up.
Yeah. And they don't do anything. They don't give you anything. They don't give you any experience, any
Nope, I know.
bonuses or anything like that. It's just literally a thing you go pick up. Yeah, and that's kind of like, in my opinion, the biggest drawback to the game is that they felt like they needed to fill it with this kind of stuff, which I don't think they needed to do. Um,
No, definitely not at all. Like without that kind of stuff, where like they give you enough other stuff to do in it that it really didn't need some sort of like collectible thing.
yeah, or if you do, if you that if you want to do something like that, like make them special, make like do fewer of them, but make them like dynamically how you discover them and make them like like I don't know, something that makes them stand out instead of just
Yeah,
like
they
here's
could have
this
used
other thing that I'm collecting.
Yeah, they could have used them to like give more insight on like the Mongols, and maybe they could have showed off their culture somewhat through it.
Yeah,
Whether it could be a little piece of text or maybe a little, each one was a little picture or something.
yeah. I don't know. Um, or like don't even have collectibles like that, but have like spend the time and create like challenge, um, like challenges or something. Like you go into a cave or something like that, and there's some sort of contraption you have to, like a puzzle you have to solve or something like that. Um,
Yeah,
yeah, I just think that, and like I said at the beginning, I find this as a fitting conclusion to this generation because a lot of these things are like the trappings of this generation's version of open worlds. It's just you try to have this story, but then you feel like you have to fill it with all of this extra content because you need it to be X amount of hours long, or something like that from like a game design spreadsheet or something like that. Like, well, it has to be this long, um, and it just doesn't amount to anything. Like, it doesn't amount to a memorable experience. Picking up the 15,000 Mongol artifacts or something like that. It's not like you're gonna remember each one. It's really just busy work.
yeah, but just like, oh shit, it's here. Okay, cool, I
Yeah.
grabbed it. It wasn't anything useful. All right, let's move on.
Yeah. All right. I knew we would be taking a long time on this one, and we are over, so we're gonna wrap it up. But yeah, I think this is definitely a recommendation. I thought it was going to be a game that I liked. I didn't realize I was going to enjoy it as much as I did. Um, and sadly, I don't know if I'm going to be able to finish it because my PlayStation 4 just decided to shit the bed. So I don't know what I am going to do currently. It just happened like a few hours before we recorded this. So right now I am unable to continue playing Ghost of Tsushima. So we'll see what happens as that saga continues. Is there anything else you want to add before we move on?
I think we covered it pretty well there. It's definitely a recommended game, and the good part about it too is you can save whenever, so you can kind of play it at your own pace, and you're not worried if you get like stuck in the middle of something. It also does that good too, where the pacing of it stays. So you're not like stuck in this story for 2 hours, and you're like, oh shit, I got to go somewhere. I can't put it down.
Mm-hmm.
But you can just stop, go off to the side a little bit, hit save, and then you're good. So I think they did pretty well bringing the entire package together as a whole.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a pretty darn good game. And that's gonna do it. So that's Ghost of Tsushima. That's PlayStation 4 exclusive. Last big game coming to I think all of these consoles. Well, Xbox or PlayStation, the last big exclusive. So I guess we'll say sayonara. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please consider leaving a like and subscribing to see more. Check out voxelvoice.com for all of our great content, and consider supporting us on Patreon to keep our content ad-free and independent.